Hello, hi. I'm Eric Gordon, and this is Anamika Austin.
Hi.
And we work together at Gordon Medical Associates. And recently we held a conference with Dr. Richie Shoemaker going over his mold and inflammatory biotoxin pathways. At the conference, we did not have a very good visual representation of how he uses the HLA DRs. These are various alleles that have to do with how our immune system presents antibody, or actually how our immune system presents antigens. Dr. Shoemaker has collected these over the years and found that groupings of these HLA DRs seem to correspond to people's susceptibilities. Now, just because you have a HLA grouping that he feels associated with a mold sensitive person, or a person who is sensitive, is more likely to have difficulty getting over Lyme, doesn't mean that you are doomed to a terrible fate. He has I think, an unfortunate use of terms when he labels two of these the dreaded, and he came up with that name because these were people who stayed sick the longest and were hard to get well. In the experience in my office, we feel that these are people who often have significant problems with their detox systems and are complicated patients, but many of them do well over time. I also would note that there are many people who have the dreaded genotypes and do not have any problems beyond the ordinary. And I can speak of that from personal experience, since I've had Lyme from a tick bite, and I have, in fact we're going to go over my HLA, I have one of the dreaded genotypes, and I did require IV antibiotics, but they were very short time, and I did very well. At least I think I'm doing well. So, what we're going to do is discuss them, and then you'll be able to see this at the same time, I hope. So what's difficult about interpreting the HLAs is that the lab that we use, LabCorp, has changed their terminology over the years. So you have to interpret the newer number system and translate it back to the original number system that he used when he started to collate this data. So in Dr. Shoemaker's books, he has, at least in the Mold Warriors and in the new book Surviving Mold, there is a page, an appendix, which is called the HLA DR Rosetta Stone. Okay, and this Rosetta Stone basically tells you how to translate the numbers to make sense of them. We are looking now, the other thing that can make it difficult when you get these lab results back is that, for reasons that I do not know, sometimes you will get about 12 lines of data, and sometimes they seem to be very generous, and you will receive something that looks like this. Starts off with the HLA, and then it goes on for pages. Luckily, you can ignore all of this, or almost all of this, but just don't be freaked if you happen to get that. I don't know what button they pressed, but it happens. So what we're looking for is basically a handful of numbers amongst all of these. When you get the test, each allele is given usually of the DRB. We're going to look at the DRB1, the DQ, DRB3, DRB4, and DRB5. Okay, DRB1. And most importantly, please remember, none of these numbers or names have any intrinsic meaning. They are all just naming conventions. So there's nothing to be understood. So please turn your minds off. You do not have, this is just fitting numbers and letters into boxes. There is no meaning here until the end. So the first thing we look at is the DRB1. That's the first thing reported in any of these reports. And it will, those numbers will be, there'll be 4 numbers. For most of us, you can just ignore the second 2 numbers. It's only the first 2 that you're looking at, and you'll see an 11 very commonly and a 4 very commonly. Those are probably the most common ones we find amongst our patients. Now, there is one curveball in the B1 section, and that is if it's a 3, if it's a 0-3, you change that to a 17. Why? Because that's how it was reported originally. So, and the only other additional piece of information that is probably useful is the second 2 numbers. If it's an 04 to begin with, if the first 2 numbers are 04, if it's an 0401 and 0404, those may be people who are a little bit more difficult to help get well.
And that's still for the DRB1?
This is just the DRB1. And the DRB1, because of these 2 issues of the 3 being converted to the 17 and the 2 numbers after 04 sometimes having significance, makes it a little bit trickier. The next one is the DQ. And the DQ is fairly straightforward. There aren't that many choices in the DQ. Basically, you just write down the first number. Just again, the first 2 numbers, but if it's a 0 before, it's usually a 0. It'll be 01, 05, or 03. Sometimes there's also 6s and 7s and 8s, but the most common one, and the ones that we're often most interested in, are the 3s and the 5s. Okay. So that is DQ. Now, in DRB3 and DRB4, I use a little mnemonic, I guess not quite a mnemonic, but just remember, even though DRB3 is 3, it fits in to the allele that we care about is 52. Okay, and now the 3, the 03, the 01, 02, and 03 in DRB3 refer to the letters A, B, and C. Okay. Which, again, this makes no sense.
It explains that on this Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, it again tells you on the Rosetta Stone about this. Okay.
So you just convert 0 to
right. Record the entries as it says in B3 by converting the 01 to A, the 02 to B, and the 03 to C. And this is all just kind of living history. Now, but it's a 52. See, that was my point about the numbers. The DRB3 is 52A, 52B, or 52C.
And how do you know if it's A or B or C?
By the number.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is this is amazingly confusing.
Okay, so there's a 52 no matter what.
There's a 52 no matter what, as long, there's a DRB3. If you have, most people, not everyone has a DRB3. Sometimes it will be blank. Okay. Okay. But if there is one there,
there's only 3 options.
There's only 3 options. Okay. And even though it's a DRB3, it becomes 52. Okay. Okay. I say that because the next one, the DRB4, okay, which doesn't have any options very nicely, becomes 53. So there's the kind of humorous thing of the.
Then okay.
You just
it's 53 for everybody.
If you have it.
If you have it.
Yes. I'm just looking at an example of someone who. Yes. We just seem to have. Everyone I have happens to have one. So yes, they're 53s. And 53s, the 4353 is the grouping that has the, what I feel, unfortunate name of the dreaded.
4353. The dreaded.
Well, just again, it's just people who I feel have a problem with detox for multiple different reasons and really stay inflamed longest.
And the 4353, these people don't have a DRB3.
Correct. They have a DRB1, a DQ, and
a DRB4.
Correct. Okay. And then the last one in this fun and games is a DRB5, which also is rather simple because a DRB5 is always a 51, if it's there.
Okay.
And again, it's not there. I don't remember the frequencies of things being there, but DRB, that seems to be one that's often not there. It's the 51s. And I believe, actually, Wikipedia, if you're interested, I think has a nice little talk about these, not related to Dr. Shoemaker, but just related to, because it's fairly concise about these groups and how they, forgot the genetics of it, but how they track together. You know, some of them do, and they tend to show up in groupings.
Yeah.
Okay, for those who want a little bit more information. So anyway, so just going over another one of these. Let's see. I said we started on mine. I was an 11 in DRB1. In my DQ, I'm a 0.3. Okay, which makes it a 3. But my DRB3 is a 0.2. And
which makes you a B.
Correct, a 52B.
Okay.
Yeah. So there we have, I am an 11.352B. A member of the unfortunate. Dreaded. Now, breaking this down, Dr. Shoemaker has grouped these into what he calls multi-susceptible groups, mold, and those are probably the most important ones. And I have to apologize. I am using his HLA registry from the Mold Warriors, and I really have to check and see if he's changed this from Surviving Mold, because I believe he has. He used to have a 1.5s as low MSH, and I don't believe he thinks that means much anymore.
So check the Surviving Mold.
Yes, we'll have to check the Surviving Mold and be sure. But the important things, the multi-susceptible group, those are people who are susceptible to both chronic Lyme and chronic mold problems, are the 4.353s, the 11 or 12 DRB1s, who then have a 352B. So 11.352B or 12.352B, and the 14.552Bs, which I don't see too many of, and it's one of the, I don't know, but we do see quite a bit in our patient population of the 4.353 and the 11.352Bs. And the mold susceptible people are the 7.253s, and there's a group of them, there's 4 of them. And
so if people want a copy of this,
it's in the books. It's in the books, and it's also in, I believe, it should be in the syllabus. If it isn't, it's definitely in the book and definitely on the Surviving Mold website. So good luck. It really gets simple. Just do a few of them, and don't be intimidated by all the numbers. If you just keep going back to the directions, once you've done 2 or 3 of them, it really does get easy. And please remember, these are placeholders. They do not have meaning in and of themselves.